Hi, I'm Annie Botticelli, and this is the Storyteller Forecast for Pisces for March 2017. Go to my website, anniehelpsyou.com, see what's new on my blog, and check out to see if I have any spots left in my professional certification courses, including my astrology apprenticeship program. So what's going on in the month of March? Well, first of all, we have birthdays. We're going to talk about that. We also have two powerful clashes between the Titans, outer planets I call Titans because they're just big heavy hitters that when they come together in a mathematical configuration that is meaningful, they evoke massive amounts of change and opportunities to change. And we've got the astrological new year. We have the new moon in Aries, which is the astrological new year kickoff party. Also the best day of the year to do a vision board. That's March 27th. And we've got all kinds of other stuff going on, especially Venus retrograde. So we've been talking about Venus retrograde for a while because the shadow period for Venus retrograde started at the end of January. But the actual transit starts now in March. It will start on March 4th and go through April 15th. When we look at the influence of a retrograde, we look at the sign and we look at the house. Now it just happens to be that one of the main signs that Venus is going to be retrograde in, which is Aries, is also the house that Pisces is having it retrograde in. So that's adding extra oomph for the things I'm about to list that are specific for Pisces. So just a quick overview of how I do my videos. I talk about the specific implications and things going on, opportunities in the month for your sign, and then I talk about the general transits and what the opportunities are there for all of the signs, okay? So that information is going to be the same for all signs. This beginning part is unique for your sign. Okay, so when Venus goes retrograde, we call Venus the triple goddess. She rules love, beauty, and money. Things are having a look to the past. It's bringing things back up. And when Venus is retrograde in the first house, like it will be for all early, middle, and late degree Pisces placements, it's really talking about self-love. So I'm calling the theme of the month for Pisces, commitment to radical self-care. Radical self-care is an idea that I'm trying to instill in anyone who is interested, where we see ourselves as a temple of God essence. Our bodies are a temple of God essence. And we treat our bodies as a church, as a sacred place that is full of infinite spirit. And so there's going to be lots of opportunities this month to bring that up. It could be that something happens that challenges our self-esteem, or it could just be that we start to really become ready to do something different with our physical bodies, with how we feel about ourselves, with how we treat ourselves. So the sacred body temple houses our essence, and so there could be anything that comes up with this Venus retrograde through the first house about mental state, feelings, emotions. There could also be physical issues that come up. So if you have symptoms, I would recommend going to get those checked out. Sometimes the body is calling out for help. The first house in the chart represents early childhood. So something else that could be coming up that could be directly related to self-esteem this month has to do with birth trauma or early childhood trauma. If your parents or one of your parents went through something difficult when you were a baby, that was imprinted upon you. And whether you're conscious of it or not, you are replaying certain aspects of their trauma out in your own life. So any birth trauma work, any psychological work, I love EMDR. It's a post-traumatic stress disorder treatment that's become quite mainstream because of the work with war veterans for their post-traumatic stress disorder. You can often find it on insurance, actually, and practitioners who might not take your insurance, they might do it on a sliding scale for you. But you'd be very surprised at how some really focused, even one EMDR session could totally change your life. And this is the time to go digging into stuff like that when Venus is going retrograde here. The first house also has to do with what we're putting out into the world and how the world sees us. So every aspect of what we put out into the world, our appearance, our hair, our clothing, our vocation, just the way that we carry ourselves, all of those things are first house attributes and first house aspects. So all of those things might be called into question. So maybe you were a waitress, and being a waitress is a fantastic job where you can make good money, and you have a flexible schedule. There are many wonderful things about being a waitress, but maybe you've come to a point where you don't resonate with being a waitress, and you want to do something else. And how people know you through your work, you might feel like you want to be known for something else. So maybe you're an artist, or maybe you're a designer, or maybe something that's a hobby is how you really see yourself. And this period of time, while it's not necessarily the best time to put things out into the world in a big way, like that, in a launching way, it's a really good time to play with the image that you want to present. So like, it's not the best time to buy a bunch of clothing or cut your hair radically or color your hair radically, but it is a time to explore these things. So like having a Pinterest board where you pick hairstyles that you like, and then when the transits are clear, then you can do something about what you've reviewed, because often the things that you're considering during the retrograde might not be necessarily what you come up with at the end of the transit. It's something that you're playing with. It's something that you're trying on. And if you can try it on in a way that doesn't cost you any money, unless you have the money to burn, which is fine then that would be better. One really cool thing that my friends and I used to do in a place where I used to live that makes me think of something perfect for Venus retrograde, and you can maybe get this going yourself, is to have clothing swap parties. So me and my girlfriends would get together and everyone would bring bags of stuff that they didn't resonate with, clothes, garments, shoes, everything, jewelry, and then we'd dump it in a pile on the floor, and everyone would just, we'd bring appetizers and we'd have music and we would just have a really awesome time, and everyone would leave there with new clothes and nobody had to spend any money. So that's the kind of thing that Venus retrograde is good for, because if you can try on some new things and, get some new things in a way that if you change your mind afterwards, that you're not going to be set back, that's what you want to do, So maybe you'll decide to start hosting some clothing swap parties. It would be really good for this transit. So just a reminder, that this transit is not necessarily a time to act. It's a time to reflect upon things. It's a time to do work on them. It's a time to consider them. But we save the acting for when the transits are more clear. And they're not going to really be very clear for acting until like the end of May. Even though Venus goes direct in the middle of April, Mercury retrograde again starts right after that. So it's just like this time of temporariness. Time to try things on, time to experiment in ways that you don't make a permanent commitment. So, the summary for this transit for Pisces is, and really, this is a summary for all signs, because everyone is experiencing Venus in the sign of Aries, but Pisces is experiencing it also in the house of Aries. It's a supreme time to strengthen self-esteem. So anything that works on the subconscious mind, past life regression, psychotherapy, counseling, EMDR, EFT, which is the emotional freedom technique. You can find lots of free information online for that. Vocational counseling, anything having to do with affirmations, subliminal messaging, exercise, positive diet and lifestyle shifts, improving self-care, anything like that. Reevaluating what you're bringing into the world, reevaluating your wardrobe and fashion, figuring out ways to take even more impeccable care of your sacred body temple. Some resources that I love for this transit for you. And you can see a summary of what you see me looking down. I'm looking at a blog that I'm working on, a very extensive blog called The Definitive Guide to Venus Retrograde Through the Signs and Houses. So I'm putting together, and this may or may not launch at the same time as the videos, but if you keep an eye out for it on my website, then it will be there at some point soon. I wanted to give you an understanding of what's happening, give you ideas of what is great to do, and give you resources that you can utilize to maximize your potentials with the transit, because that's what my work is all about. So there's a book called The Presence Process. If you've listened to my videos before, then you've heard me mention it before. It's one of my all-time favorite self-development books. If you haven't been able to tell already, I'm not just an astrologer. I can't understand how to use astrology without also using it for self-development, because when people ask the question, what's going to happen I want to talk about asking different questions, which I'm going to get to here in a few minutes. But when we ask different questions, we have a different experience. And doing self-development work in sync with the astrological transits helps us to really maximize the potentials that are standing before us and to get the lessons and to understand them and to strengthen weak links, which is what transits bring up. So the Presence Process is an amazing book to heal childhood trauma so that you can experience a more fulfilling life. There are lots of things that work on the subconscious mind. I recommend those. Also, that idea of having either a board in front of you, like a real poster board, or a Pinterest board for, wardrobe, vocation, anything having to do with your image would be a great resource to use. So, my affirmation for you and the theme for you this month is I commit to radical self-care. You can see this affirmation with a pretty background on my Instagram account so that you have a visual, all the affirmations that I write for the different signs. I make Instagram pictures of them so that you can work with these affirmations. And so you can check that out there. So these are the things that are up for Pisces specifically. Now I want to talk about these clashes between the Titans, Jupiter, Pluto, and Uranus. Talk about the full moon, talk about the new moon, and the best ways to use the general transit energies. So I'm calling the theme of the month for the general transit, so this is relevant for all signs. Summon your inner badass. And what I imagine when I'm seeing the energies of March all coming together is a hero that is walking through a scene that we're observing, and there are difficulties coming at them, and they're standing tall and strong and confident and moving through and being triumphant at the end of the challenges. Every month brings challenges and opportunities and sweet spots. I see challenges always as opportunities. So a month that has more challenges in some ways can be a month full of more opportunities. We have started to ask wrong questions in our lives, I think, or questions that cause us to experience life in a disempowered way. When we ask questions, what's going to happen in the stars that's going to stress me out? Or tell me what's going to happen, these are disempowered questions. The questions we want to be asking astrology and in general is, help me understand what's going on here so that I can maximize the potentials for my highest expression. And that's what I focus on. So I want to help you ask different questions, and that's part of summoning your inner badass, because the more empowered questions you ask, the more of an empowered life you will live. So we've got multiple important aspects going on this month, and I'm going to go through them and how I think that we can most use them. There are also some lesser aspects that you definitely will feel, sweet days, challenging days, etc., a longer list of those that you can get when you sign up for my free email newsletter at anniehelpsyou.com. You'll get my monthly write-up, which includes a written version of the things that I touch on in the horoscope for the general transits, and it also includes more things that I don't have time to talk about. So if you have signed up for my email newsletter and you're not receiving it, it could be in your spam or social or events folders, because I do send them out every month. Okay, so the first aspect of the month is March 2nd, and this is Jupiter in Libra opposing Uranus in Aries, and this is happening at 20 degrees. So if you have planets near the 20 degrees, you're probably you're going to be affected more than these aspects without them, but globally everyone will still be experiencing this. So that expression, things come in threes, is astrological, and that's because often things that we're experiencing come from aspects in the sky, and these ones that are big long-term themes, they usually involve what I call the Titans, the outer planets. It's like a sumo match between these planets that just carry a massive amount of power and a massive amount of potential. So when you have Jupiter, an outer planet, and Uranus, an outer planet, coming together in what could be considered a challenging aspect called an opposition, they're trying to find balance. An opposition is two opposing forces. They're antagonistic, but they can also become synergistic. So the more you can transcend whatever the issue is, the more those planets will work in synastry. So Jupiter wants to expand, and Uranus wants to innovate. Libra is the planet of the sign of we, and Aries is the sign of me. So we've got a me-we aspect of a theme trying to get things worked out that started at the end of December. And this is in March 2nd, it's the second pass. And then on September 27th, we have the final part of the story. These are like chapters in a story that are ongoing. So it's some sort of breaking free from constraints in relationships. And that's basically the theme. So we might perceive someone as limiting us, or someone might be perceiving us as limiting them. And maybe that is true. But what's probably more true is that we have limitations within us as far as how we can experience relationship, and we project that limitation on all of our relationships because it's coming from the inside. So you have an opportunity here to break free from your pattern within yourself so you can stop enslaving your partner to play a certain role, and you can stop being attractive to those circumstances that are unfulfilling for you. So that's very exciting. So then on March 4th, we have Venus going retrograde. We've been talking about this for a while because the shadow period started at the end of January. And this transit only happens once every 18 months, and there's a lot that goes along with it. So definitely check out my Venus retrograde do's and don'ts blog and video. I'm also writing some other extensive Venus retrograde blogs that you can look for on my website, anniehelpsyou.com. And the basic gist of Venus retrograde is that Venus, we call Venus the triple goddess because she rules love, beauty, and money. So beauty also includes aesthetics in your environment, art, design, fashion, appearance, things like that. So she's going backwards. And when she goes backwards, it's a time to reconsider everything about love, beauty, and money. It's a time to go back to old ideas, old things that worked, old clients. Many people will revisit previous relationships. People who are staying in the same relationship will revisit topics that came up in the past, for better and worse. Venus retrograde is not just a time where unresolved conflicts can come up, although that is definitely a theme. Anything swept under the rug in love, beauty, or money will come back up to be looked at. But it's also a time where lots of magic can return to those areas of life. You can find money. You can have love return to a relationship where it had left. You can find some riches with your self-esteem development, which is another important topic for this retrograde. So we've got that going on from March 4th through April 15th. And it's going to be retrograde from 13 degrees of Aries back to 26 degrees of Pisces. So in the, we talked about where the Venus retrograde is taking place in the house for your sign. For all signs, we will experience Venus retrograde in Aries, which is similar to the first house, or is the same as the first house retrograde, and 26 degrees of Pisces, which is the same as the 12th house retrograde. So depending on where your placements were for your sign, you might be having the same themes come up, or you might be having some additional themes come up. But the general story of Venus in Aries has to do with self-esteem. It's talking about appearance, fashion, how you put yourself out into the world. Pisces has to do with hidden places. So this is a place where this hidden money can come to you, money that you didn't know that you had, or that you hid from yourself, or that was in the backdrop somehow. It's just stuff from the past involving love, beauty, and money. That's the basic gist of Venus retrograde. So then on March 12th, we have a full moon at 22 degrees of Virgo. And full moons, the best way to manage full moons, I think, is to leave some space around them, because full moons are a time when our emotions just sort of shake off. Everything that we've been accumulating for the month coming to fullness is just a time to shake it off, like a dog shakes off water, So often there's something dramatic, or there's something really cool going on that you want to be present for, So I usually keep a little space around the full moons for whenever these manifestations come up, because the best way to deal with them is to be present with them. So Virgo rules health, your daily work, it rules pets. So it's possible that something involving those things could come to your attention, or need attention, or come up as a focus at this time. The full moon is also making quite a lot of aspects, opposing Mercury and Chiron, trining Pluto, and squaring Saturn. So we've got a lot of power at this full moon, I think, to overcome the energy of woundedness. And this is going to be a theme this month because of aspects with Chiron. Chiron is an asteroid that is called the Wounded Healer. And the idea of the wounded healer, or my understanding of the wounded healer, and as I've observed it through countless charts, is that it's a place of weakness. That deep place where if someone gets at that, then you don't know what comes out. It gets ugly, you know? It's a very wounded place, or a very weak place for you. So the idea of Chiron, the highest vibration, is that you strengthen, you focus your attention on that weakness or that vulnerability, and it becomes a strength. So that's the transcendent version. So like in the instance of the energy in Virgo, Virgo rules health. Maybe some people have health weaknesses. Maybe they have to work harder to attain health. And when that happens, they might wind up being healthier and staving off other health issues because they had a weakness that made them focus on their health. And if they didn't have that meticulous focus, then they could have created other problems maybe, or maybe they wind up teaching or helping people from it, or improving the lives of others because of what they've had to go through. So this is just an example of how you can take any woundedness that comes up this month or ever and convert it into something positive and powerful and supportive. So on March 20th, we have the beginning of the astrological new year. I never feel like the new year is starting on January 1st, especially when it's in the midst of a retrograde like it was this year and some other years. So March is when the planets start to move into Aries, and the planet of Aries, or the sign of Aries, is the baby of the zodiac. It's that bursting forth, that energy of spring, something new beginnings. So you'll see as the planets are moving into this sign, people get impulsive, they get excited, they get wild, they want to do stuff, they feel active. And this is the energy of New Year. So on March 27th, we have the new moon in Aries, and I always consider the new moon in Aries to be like the kickoff party for the new year. It's like the new year starts around March 20th, and then when the new moon in Aries comes, it's like, yay, okay, it's a new year, let's have a party. That's like New Year's Eve, So this new moon in Aries, all the new moons in Aries, so the one new moon that we have in Aries a year, is the best time of the whole year besides your birthday to do vision boards or other seed planting for your future, things that you want in that upcoming year. So definitely take full advantage of that. This new moon also carries a lot of power. It's conjunct Chiron and Venus. It's a square Saturn, and it's coinciding with a Mars in Taurus and Neptune sextile, which is a 60-degree angle. It's a positive angle. So there's, again, a lot of power behind this moon phase. On March 30th, we have our last big aspect of the month, which is the second Jupiter square with Pluto. Similar to how we've been talking about this Jupiter opposition with Libra, how it happened once last year, so did this Jupiter and Pluto aspect. And this one's happening at 19 degrees. On November 24th of last year, this Jupiter and Pluto first pass happened. Now on March 30th, the second pass happens, and then on August 4th, the last pass will happen. So we've got these 3 chapters of this ongoing story. And one of the main themes, I think, of this ongoing story has to do with ambitions, rising ambitions, and the idea of competition and what we have to do or what we're willing to do or what we think we have to do to succeed. In a third dimensional reality, there is competition. There's focus on competition. And there are all of the energies that go along with competition. It's kind of gross, It can be very, very low vibe and not conducive to conscious evolution to focus too much on the energy of competition. My suggestion, I invite you to use this energy to transcend competition and tune in to divine timing and your divine path and purpose. So if you're out there doing what you're supposed to be doing and you feel like Spirit is guiding you and you're on track and you're speaking your truth or doing your truth, then it doesn't really matter what anyone else is doing. You will attract to you the people and the customers that will be perfect for you. And so really there's no competition on the spiritual plane. And this is an affirmation from Florence Scovel Shinn, who is one of my all-time favorite teachers. She's not in form anymore that I know of. And she wasn't even when she came to me. She had passed a long time ago. So she was teaching about, She was actually teaching about Jesus's work as a metaphysician, teaching about transcending mundane reality while still in form, like bringing heaven onto earth in our experience. And that is an affirmation I got from her. So there's no competition on a spiritual plane. So if you are conducting yourself in a way that is high vibrational, if you are doing everything that is in sync with your beliefs and your values, then you can transcend this energy, you know? So you just check in with yourself and see how this is true for you, and just look out for it, because these themes are sometimes very subtle. You know, sometimes they come more into the forefront, but overall they're very subtle sometimes. So these are the main things that I am seeing for the month for the general transits. So you have plenty of opportunities to summon your inner badass. Definitely go to my website, anniehelpsyou.com. Check out my blogs. I have blogs on all different kinds of topics, not just astrology. If you want to learn astrology with me, then I might still have some slots available in my astrology apprenticeship program. If you want to bring your business online, check out my Creating Successful Online Business course. And if you would like to be a coach as your profession, then you can check out my coach certification course. So I hope you have a wonderful month, and I'll see you next month. Bye.